we have the coolest planet. So this is an example of one of a Motmot's practice nests. So again, in these embankment type situations, they're gonna come along looking for the perfect place to make a house, make a nest for their babies. And so they're gonna start digging all of these practice holes. Because obviously if there's only one giant gaping hole in an embankment, mammalian predators like coatis would figure out pretty quick where to find babies. And so they'll actually make a whole bunch of nests, just looking for the perfect soil type, making sure they don't run into a root or a rock, and then also to have basically fake nests to make sure that predators don't find them. And so this is a starter one. It doesn't go all the way back, but it was very recently dug because there's no spiders in here yet. So this whole hole going back does not have one spider web in it, which lets me know that the Motmots were just building this very recently, which makes a lot of sense because we are in prime Motmot reproduction season right now. I've been seeing them all over the place, lots of little courtship, boop, 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 boop. In Spanish they actually call them bobos because they make the most ridiculous noise in the world. Boop, 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 boop. And so there'll be like 5 or 6 of them all around sitting there with their little tails knocking back and forth. Boop, 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 boop. But anyways, they build these little holes into the nest, to form a nest rather. And then they'll lay their eggs in there, incubate them inside. So a lot of the time they lose their tail feathers during this process. And so if you walk along these embankments, that's more often than not where I find those beautiful pendulous Motmot tail feathers will just be in the gutter below these embankments. And so what's going to happen is in these cases where they go far enough back that it creates prime habitat for an orange-kneed tarantula, which is an endemic Costa Rican species. An amazing giant Costa Rican tarantula the size of your hand. She's gonna move into one of these practice burrows that go far enough back, or after the babies have fledged, then at that point she'll move in and take over the burrow to have her own babies. And so I often will come along embankments like this in the night with a flashlight to find those big females sitting at the front of the burrow waiting for prey to happen to sneak in. And so if you're a katydid who takes the wrong turn at night walking along this embankment, you're in big trouble if you find one of these huge female orange-kneed tarantulas in the mouth of her burrow. So the female orange-kneed tarantula will put sort of these safety lines from the front of the burrow to the back so that she can hang a little bit further back, but if somebody walks into the burrow, it's going to trigger that line. She'll know to turn around and jump out and grab whatever prey is in the front of her burrow. So you've got this burrow here, female tarantula living inside of it. She's got these trigger ropes, pieces of silk that she's laid down from the front of her burrow to the back to allow her to know if anybody's coming in. It's basically like a doorbell, except that it's always for delivery service. And so whenever that trigger goes off, the Uber driver has arrived and she pops out and eats him. It's very rude. And so they love to feed off of delicious big katydids, which is one of the frequent things. So it's going to be running along here, eating some of this vegetation that's growing on the embankment, and then having to pop in the wrong place at the wrong time and end up a quick meal. This is a perfect place for her to have her babies. So she actually lays down this silken mat and will lay in, as far as we know, the only data we have, about 123 baby eggs, or 124 it was. So she wrapped them up in this beautiful silken pillowcase, and then she basically sticks it to her abdomen, and so she'll sit inside that burrow and not go anywhere, not eat during this period while those babies are developing. So if there's any kind of high stress or a lot of disturbances, then often tarantulas will eat their own egg sacs. So it's always good to not be bothering these sorts of habitats when you find them. But these females will sit on those eggs, they're gonna hatch, and they actually hang out in there with them. So they're gonna stay sometimes as long as 6+ months in there with their females, with their moms rather. I've seen spiderlings about that big living inside with their moms, which hopefully one of these days we'll see again and we can get on film for you guys to see, because it is many a person's worst nightmare. But I think it's adorable as this big huge female orange-kneed tarantula sitting there and all of her babies are just everywhere around the walls, on the roof, everywhere. You think your kids are annoying. They're literally hanging off the curtains, and so there's this full burrow full of these these tiny little baby orange-deep tarantulas, and it's absolutely adorable. But they're going to co-live with their mom until they get a little bit bigger. They molt their exoskeleton a few times. At that point, they're just faster and can defend themselves and have more options for prey. Because when you're a teeny tiny little spiderling, your food is narrowed down so much so that it can be hard to find the appropriate food frequently enough. But once you're a little bit bigger, at that point, you can head off into the great beyond and hope you survive. But it's very unlikely. And so this is a really cool relationship between motmots and orange-deep tarantulas. These two species live here. This Lessons motmot lives at this high altitude here in Monteverde in our beautiful cloud forest alongside this very specialized tarantula species. And this tarantula has figured out a way to take advantage of the motmot's amazing ability to dig incredibly great holes into embankments, which are tarantula's favorite habitat type. And so our planet is so interconnected, and there is so much diversity, and the way that they interact with each other is absolutely mind-blowing. We have the coolest planet. So get out there, explore it, see what there is around you, because you will be just as blown away.